Mr. Chris, are you there? Mr. Valdez,
All right.
Alejandro, Miss Anne, Mia, are you're lost in your clouds. I don't see you.
I'm here.
Where are you? You're flying? Wow, that is flying very fast. Excellent. Okay. All right, so let's start. Okay, so welcome to lecture number 2, nutrition. We will talk today we will talk about proteins, the process of GI tract, the functions of the GI tract, digestion, absorption, metabolism, and energy balance. Energy balance. Basically, proteins is going to be reviewed from previous classes. I'm going to remark a few things there and to just adjust the bolts, let's put it that way. Digestion, absorption, and metabolism, that is anatomy, physiology, but we are going to give you the perspective from more from the point of view of nutrition. And energy balance. What is an energy balance? Energy balance is the amount of physical activity or efforts, mental, physical activity that you will do every day, they require some amount of energy, right? So, and basically, if you give too much energy to your body because you're eating a lot, because food can produce the sources to produce ATPs, right? So if you have a surplus, but you're going to use certain amount of energy, but the amount that you eat is giving more energy than you're supposed to receive, that is going to be stored as a fat. If you are going to do a physical activity and you eat a little bit or you don't want to eat, I mean, your energy are going to use the reserve of nutrients in your body. So you're going to start losing weight. So what is the ideal situation here? The ideal situation will be to take the nutrients that provide us the energy to produce ATPs enough to do the activities that we have that day. In that case, you will not lose or you will not gain weight. Okay? And how much of this energy are we are going to use? You can go home, you can check in every single of your family how much energy they will need. In this class, we will learn only the amount of energy that you need to survive. So the minimum energy that you need to survive. And we are going to elaborate. So what does that mean? The minimum energy that you need in order to survive. For example, I will tell you ahead of time. When you are resting, do you consume energy? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. Tell me, when you are sleeping, are you consuming energy? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes.
So that means that you need ATPs, correct? And what happened is how we are using this energy? Why we need this energy? Why? Because your heartbeat is stopping when you sleep, right? We are not dead when we are sleeping, right? So our heart rate is going to keep pumping, right? And that is consuming energy. What else is consuming energy? It's going to be the respiration, breathing, right? When you go to sleep, you start breathing. No, you're still breathing, and that is they need energy to do the movement of the muscles and the expansion of the lungs, correct? So all for that. So those are the minimum requirements of energy, and that is what we are going to calculate today. Next class, you're going to learn how to calculate your total amount of kilocalories that you need in a day according to your activity. So you're going to make a summation of your energy that you need to survive plus the extra energy that you do according to your activity. Your activity could be a student, your activity could be athlete. So there's factors that they need to multiply. It's a very simple equation. And you can tell me how much kilocalories, how much energy you will require in a day. And that is useful I'm going to tell you what about next class. I will tell you how much of this amount of kilocalories are going to use. If I want to gain weight, if I want to lose weight, how many kilocalories are going to decrease, right? So, and that you can make a plan. So you can work in the gym right now. In the gym, well, after the next class, you can work in the gym because you can make a plan, a diet, or how many kilocalories they need to burn, then how many kilocalories they need to eat a day. That is what we are going to start elaborating today. Let's start with the proteins. Okay. So lecture 2, we have proteins, and proteins are very, very, very important, right? So I need to talk to you about proteins and some process about gluconeogenesis that is important. Yesterday I was talking to some instructors about module 3, and they are reviewing, for example, diabetes. Okay, and we need to review, for example, where it's coming from. That is the moment. In order to understand diabetes, you need to understand how is the metabolism of the carbohydrates and the metabolism of the fat and proteins. So this is not going to be only just here and end. They are going to continue in the next one, especially diabetes. Diabetes is your bread and butter. You will see diabetes everywhere. So you need to understand that. And NCLEX and hence is very high yield too. All right, so let's start. So here, proteins. Food proteins provide the amino acids necessary for building and maintaining body tissue. So just remember, the proteins is a molecule composed by amino acids. Somebody's coming, is trying to come in.
No, AJ went to the bathroom.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Thank you. All right, so let's start with the basic. So amino acids are the monomers for the proteins. You have a wall of bricks. The whole wall of bricks will be a protein. The pieces of each brick will be an amino acid. These amino acids, they have the lengths are variable. So we have 1,000 different types. I would say almost 1,000, hundreds and hundreds, and different types of proteins in our body. Proteins are everywhere, everywhere. Let's start with a simple one. So what is the main components of the cell membrane? The main components of the cell membrane, and that is not actually simple or easy, very simple. Why? Because we have 100 trillion cells in our body. All the cells, every single cell. What are the main components of the cell membrane? Will be the phospholipids or phospholipids and the proteins. These proteins that are embedded or immersed in the cell membrane are going to be, for example, receptors. These receptors are like the switch on your room. The switch on the room, you press the switch, the light is on. So you press the receptor in the cell, the cell start to have a function to produce some substance or activate some mechanism. It's like you're turning on the light. When you press the switch, and that switch is a receptor. We have different receptors. Receptors, for example, to make the glucose get inside the cell. These receptors are going to be on the level of the insulin, for example. The insulin is going to come and knock the door, okay, and ring the bell. And the ringing the bell means that they're pressing the receptor. And what is doing this receptor? Opening the doors for the glucose, see? So what are those? Protein. What is a receptor, for example? It's a protein. So everything is a protein. The protein, for example, the receptors for to exchange sodium, potassium, calcium, magnesium, all the entries of sodium. Remember the curve that we was talking, sodium, calcium, magnesium, potassium. So all these, the entry are going to be proteins. Enzymes are going to be proteins. The enzyme, those accelerators for chemical reactions. The hormones, your hormones, all the GPTAL, all your oxytocin, ADH are going to be proteins. Okay, so Many, the T3, the T4, all the hormones, the growth hormone, all of them are proteins. So proteins are everywhere. Plus the albumin, don't forget about the albumin. Albumin is a protein. And the protein is that albumin basically is the taxi driver of everything that is traveling through the bloodstream. Okay, so here we have the amino acid. Amino acid CO radical group COOH. Okay, and amino is NH3. So NH3. So all this is going to be together by a molecule of carbon, and that is the amino acid. The amino acid. Remember, we do not store proteins. We don't store proteins. So if you have an excess of proteins, the proteins are going to break down like this. They're going to break down, and this is going to turn into ammonia. Remember that? Ammonia. Okay, so let's keep going. So the junction or the link between amino acids, because remember the translation we have here. I'm going to be more explicit here. Remember, we have A, T, C, G, G, C, T, A. Remember that?
Yes.
So that is the RNA messenger, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So what happened here? So this is ATC, for example, is a code. It's like a codification. This sequence in this order, ATC by 3. So the code is by 3. Three passcode or code, whatever you want to call. And this ATC sequence means that they need to bring some type of amino acid. The other one is going to be GGC. So that represents, that is the codification that in this area is going to be installed another type of amino acid. Here we have another 3 of them. This is a code. 3 of them that are going to bring another type of amino acid, and so on. So this chain is going to produce the primary, then the secondary, tertiary, and quaternary protein that we talked in the past. Okay? All right, we get with that. So we have each amino acid is going to be a monomer. It's a monomer. But a small chain of amino acids, are going to be called peptides. Now, a long chain of peptides basically are going to be produce what we call a protein. So there's 3 steps: amino acids, peptides, that are a small chain of amino acids, and the peptides, when they get in together, they are going to form the protein. Which one is the one who are going to be absorbed by the intestine is the amino acids, not the peptides. Peptides is too big. It's going to be the amino acids, okay? All right. Protein balance both within the body, and the diet is essential for life and health. Yes, because proteins are everywhere. For example, the enzymes that produce the gastric acid are proteins. The lipase is an enzyme. It's a protein. Amylase, protease, lipase, right? So all these are proteins. The structures of the cells and the structures of the tissue are basically formed by proteins. All right. Each protein is composed by hundreds of amino acids called a peptide chain, and the link between amino acids. This is an amino acid here, another amino acid here. Okay, so they are going to come together, and when 2 amino acids, in order to try to form the peptide and link, this link is called the peptide bond. peptide bond. Peptide bond. Okay, so it's basically one of the H of the ammonia um, uh, amino, group amino, and the group OH of the carboxyl O acid. So peptide acid. So what is the glue between amino acids? Is the peptide bond. Peptide bond. All right, so when protein foods are eaten, proteins are broken down into amino acids. So that is the example I was giving you in the past. For example, you have, look at your room. Look at your room. Your room is, you have a door, and you want to put a Mercedes-Benz inside the car, inside the room. You want to put a Mercedes-Benz inside your room. If they give you that task, you will say, how I can do it, right? How I can do it, because the car is too big to pass through my door. So what you're going to do is to disassemble the car and break it by pieces. So you take the steer, the wheels, the seats, the engine, one by one, and pass through the door. And then when it's inside your room, you put it together, and you have the Mercedes-Benz inside your car. So it's exactly the same what happened with the proteins. So for example, you need albumin. You need albumin. You need albumin. You need albumin. Albumin, you know, all the properties that we was talking, retaining water, transportation, etc. Albumin. The albumin is a protein that is consists in many amino acids. But this albumin, where you can get it? You can get it from your diet. This albumin is going to be separated into their components, the amino acids. Otherwise, the albumin that you eat cannot be absorbed. The protein albumin is too big. The only one can be passing the absorption to the intestine, to the intestinal cells, are going to be in the form of amino acids. So then the amino acids go into the bloodstream, go to the liver, for example. In the liver, they have already the cells who are programmed to know how to reassemble the albumin, like the Mercedes-Benz inside your car, inside your room. So now the liver is going to put all these components of the albumin and recreate the albumin again. Is that clear or not?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay, all right. We have 20 amino acids. We have 20 different amino acids, and the combination of these amino acids can be very high. So you can have different combination of 20 amino acids. So in number and length. So that is giving you a lot of variety of proteins. So we have hundreds and hundreds, even thousands of different type of proteins in our body. Why? Because we have 1, 2, 3, 18, 19, 20 different combinations. So you can have 5 of 1 plus 5 of 3, 10 of 8, another amino acid. So, and you can make a chain as you want. So different combinations, different lengths. That is will be giving a lot of variety of proteins. Okay. So how many amino acids we have? 20 amino acids. From these 20 amino acids, we have 9 indispensable. So that is something that we produce in small amounts in our body, or actually small amounts, or we don't produce them. So that's why we need these amino acids from other sources. What is the source? Animal source. So they're going to eat meat, for example, right? So eat meat is going to give you all the amino acids that you require. So these indispensable amino acids are produced in very low amount, or probably you don't produce these amino acids. And what happened is that you need to provide these amino acids to your body to produce proteins, and that source is from the diet, from your diet, especially animal source. Okay, 5 dispensable synthesized by the body, 6 conditional dispensable. So what I want just to remember is what I put in yellow here, and that is what is coming. So you have 9 essential. It's called indispensable or essential. Write it down that. Essential. It's essential for surviving. Essential. It's very important. So that's why it's called, how many of them we have? 9 indispensable or essential amino acids. Okay? All right. So here we have the classes of amino acids. We have essential, no essential, and conditional. So in the exam, please, I want you to be aware of that. In the exam, they call essential or indispensable, or no essential or dispensable. Yeah, always they're trying to make headaches about this different names, but well, that's the way it is. So essential amino acids are 9. Body cannot make or synthesize, manufacture, or produce is the same word. Synthesize is the same word to say producing, produce. So if you see the word synthesize somewhere, that means translated into production. Okay, body cannot manufacture in sufficient quantity, and that means that you need to have from other sources, animal source. Okay, all right. So how many? 9. How many total? 20. How many indispensable we have? 9. How many essential we have? Or indispensable? 9. Total, how many amino acids we have? 20. From those 20, 9 are going to be essential or indispensable. You okay with that?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So
Yes.
let's start. Excellent. So let's start talking about something that is very high yield for the exam, and that is giving you the frame to understand how much we need proteins. So we have the protein balance. So, but why protein is so important? Because if you see from what are the main macronutrients, the macronutrients are going to be fat, right? It's going to be what? Carbohydrates and proteins, correct? If you go to the molecular
Yes.
structure, thank you. If you go to the molecular structure, what is the difference between proteins from the rest of the macronutrients? The difference is in the molecules, they contain nitrogen. Nitrogen, that is the big difference, please. That is question. Write it down 10 times. So protein is the only nutrient that contains nitrogen. 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 What is a nitrogen? Nitrogen is like the cement. It's like the glue that puts things together, right? So nitrogen is the one who is able to put the amino acids together to create a wall, to create a tissue. So that nitrogen is not present in the carbohydrates, is not present in the lipids. Is that clear or no?
Yes.
Okay. Tell me, where do you find high content of nitrogen in your daily life? I will tell you one very, very short story. One day I was cooking. That was a long time ago when my hair, my hair was, I was like a dog. My hair was all, I have curly hair, and all my face was covered by by hair. I was like a dog, seriously. That was some time ago. Anyhow, so one day I was opening the oven, and the fire came into, I put my head, so stupid myself, I put my head in the oven, very close, and the fire was coming up, like this. All this area, no hair. No hair. I didn't have eyebrows. No eyebrows. No eyelashes. I was like, coming from a horror movie.
How long did it take to grow everything out, Dr. G?
Okay, it's going to be 3 millimeters every 0.3 millimeters per week. 0.3 millimeters per week. You know that is growing if you pull your hair, one hair, only one hair, and you see the end is like a white area.
Uh-huh.
So when it's like a snowball, like a snow, like a rounded, that means that area is resting, it's not growing. But if you put when you pull it and you see like a long root, like a long white, long, that means that area is growing. Okay, so let's talk about something another time, another time. Okay, so I'm trying to do this. Why I'm saying that? Because when I burn my hair, can you feel that smell when you burn hair,
Yes.
Yeah.
right? So that smell is nitrogen. Yes, you're burning the nitrogen. That is that smell of burned hair. That is the nitrogen that is being burned and go as a gas in the environment. So that is telling you that the hair have a lot of nitrogen. Yes or no?
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, if you see you can smell this kind of a smell of burn. For example, you burn something in the kitchen. That burning basically is nitrogen. You okay with that? Because the meat, all the components, they have nitrogen. All organic elements, they have nitrogen. Okay, we got it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, perfect. All right, so telling you that nitrogen is very important. So nitrogen is very important for what else? To heal wounds, to healing process, a healing process. So that nitrogen is the cement that they are going to put together proteins to create new structures, to recreate the structures if you are having an injury and to repair your tissue. Okay with that? So that's why do you think when somebody is sick, they have a special food? When you are sick, they want to give you nice meat, a nice chicken, no fat, right? Basically a soup or whatever meal with high content of proteins, correct? Yes or no? And why is that? Because the protein has this nitrogen. This nitrogen. This nitrogen is going to be used as a glue to put the structures together. It's the cement of our body. And the only one who contain that are the proteins, the nitrogen. So when you are pregnant, when you are doing exercises, when you are sick, when you have some injury, so you need to take certain amount of proteins to accelerate or to improve or make efficiently the healing process. So for that, we need to talk about the protein balance. Protein balance. So you already know that the protein by previous course is the protein. Can you store proteins in your body? Can you store proteins?
No.
No,
No.
right? We don't have a storage place for proteins. So the proteins that you eat, the amino acids will be assimilated. So you know what is assimilation now, right? So that is what they are going to assimilate the amino acids to produce other elements. But if you still eating proteins, you don't need more for that day. You don't need more. So what is happening? You're going to eliminate the proteins because the protein cannot be stored. You can use the protein for your needs, yes, but when you already satisfy that need, the excess of eating more proteins, that is going to need to be eliminated. It's not going to be stored. And how this is going to be eliminated? The proteins. The proteins, they are going to produce what we call the deamination, and that is a review again. It's a deamination. Deamination, the deamination is going to remove the amino from the amino acid. This is the amino acid. They remove this, and when they remove this amino group are going to turn into ammonia. Ammonia. 50% is in the intestine, but anyhow, we will talk about another time. And ammonia then is going to be captured by the liver. And ammonia, that is very toxic, very toxic. Oh my God, it's very toxic. Do you smell ammonia before? Somebody smell ammonia?
They're in hair colors, right?
Yeah, ammonia. Sorry?
I think they're like chemicals in the hair colors. I think I smelled one before.
Oh,
It's
really? I
not
don't.
in like the nail polish remover.
I don't
Is
know, but I never polish my nails.
Don't
I
they
make
use like kind of white?
It's
Cleaning
very ammonia is a substance that is you can smell from this distance, very strong, very strong. It irritate your nose very much right away. This ammonia is so toxic, it's very toxic. So that's why the liver is going to, you know, the functions of the liver, right? Functions of the liver: albumin, bile, coagulation factors, detoxification, and that is excretion, right? The detoxification is means that makes the ammonia, the liver is going to take the ammonia, and the liver is going to turn into urea. Urea is toxic, but ammonia is 10 times more toxic. I don't know how many times, but a lot more toxic. So they are going to detoxify. So they are going to make it from very toxic to less toxic. That is already a good deal for us. Because if you accumulate ammonia, you're going to have what we call hepatic encephalopathy. So that is dementia caused by accumulation. You get crazy with ammonia elevation. And when that happens, when the liver is not working, and that means the liver cannot turn the ammonia, very toxic, into less toxic urea. Okay? All right, so that is what is happening with the urea, and the urea is, remember, don't lose the perspective, that this urea is going to be produced as more you eat proteins, yes or no? Because the excess of proteins cannot be stored. They need to be eliminated, correct?
Mm-hmm.
yes.
Tell me, you have cats? I have 4 cats. I love my cats. But they're very well educated right now. Ooh, no, I'm not punishing them ever. But you know, the cats, what they eat. They like to eat apples. They like to eat grapes or bananas. Or they like to eat salads. What they like to eat?
They like to eat meat.
Protein.
Protein, right? Just meat, right? They like duck. They like well, all that chicken, a combination of chicken, whatever, everything. But meat, 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 and meat. So these cats, the cats especially, are going to have high content of protein, and basically they are not going to store the protein, so they are going to be eliminated. So they produce a lot of urea, a lot of urea. Make sense or no?
Exactly.
Yeah.
If they make a lot of urea, very high concentrated, the urine of the cat are not very strong smell, very intense, right?
No, it smells hella bad.
Oh, you didn't think about it?
It smells really bad.
Not really bad? Well,
Pretty bad.
very
Really
bad.
bad.
No, who said that? It's very bad or not very bad? It's very strong smell, yes or no?
Strong smell.
Strong smell, okay. So somebody is under the water or something, I cannot hear. All right, so it's very strong. That's why, because they have a low concentration of urea. So where do you smell urea? Urea, you go, for example, to these gas stations. They don't clean the bathroom, and they have this smell of pee. That pee smell is urea. Is the excretion of the elimination of the excess of proteins in the body. Okay?
Porta potties.
Sorry.
Portal potties, like those.
Oh
I don't
yeah,
know.
portal. Yeah. They don't go anywhere. So yeah. So that is urea. You okay with that? All right. So now let's start talking about this. So very simple. We have nitrogen balance. Nitrogen balance. So you already know what is the importance of nitrogen. Who contain the nitrogen? So proteins only. So nitrogen balance means that that is proteins are very important for the amino acids and the nitrogen. So if you have excess of proteins, they are going to eliminate nitrogen through the urine. So when you eliminate nitrogen through the urine, that is a positive nitrogen balance. So All right, so what does it mean? Okay, so remember this, please. Presence of of nitrogen. I didn't say urea. Nitrogen in the urine. That means a positive nitrogen balance. So that means that you're eating enough proteins, right? You're eating enough proteins. So that enough proteins are going to use the proteins that you need, and the rest is going to be eliminated. So you have good supply of. That is telling you that your nutrition is very good. Negative nitrogen balance is when you have no nitrogen in the urine. Why? Because all the nitrogen are being used, and probably you don't know you need more nitrogen. Otherwise, you will be eliminating nitrogen. So if you eat a little bit of proteins below what you require every day, you're going to use all the protein. So you will not have any nitrogen in the urine. But if you eat a lot of proteins, you use the proteins that you need that day, and the rest need to be eliminated. So you will find presence of nitrogen in the urine. You okay with that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So conclusion, we have nitrogen, a positive nitrogen, you eliminate nitrogen in the urine. Negative nitrogen, you don't eliminate because you're using all the nitrogen. Probably you need more. All right. So in conclusion, positive nitrogen, good nutrition. Good nutrition. Negative nitrogen, bad nutrition. Okay, you don't have enough proteins in intake. So now, just to complete the idea here, positive nitrogen balance is according to what you eat, right? And you will see positive nitrogen balance in pregnancy, during pregnancy. During pregnancy, when you increase the exercises, Okay. Now, in the example of negative nitrogen balance is when you have a disease, you have an injury. So what is the disease? Tell me, when you have an injury, you are sick for certain periods of time, you don't lose weight? You lose weight or not? Okay.
You do.
Yes.
Why? Because the body is trying to use the reserves, all the reserve of carbohydrates, of fat, and they are going to use every single molecule of protein that is coming into your diet. Protein. Okay? Why? Because your tissue is repairing. You need a lot of cement. You need a lot of nitrogen. You need a lot of nitrogen. You need cement to build up the walls that are being destroyed by the disease. So basically, when you are in negative nitrogen balance, you are in catabolic state. Catabolic state. And when you have nitrogen, positive nitrogen balance, you are in anabolic state. Okay, so let's make a summary here. All right, so you're saying, my God, why so complicated? Why we need to know this? Yes, we need to know this for one thing, and that is the conclusion about all this. When you want to have, for example, you want to know if the patient is very well nourished or malnourished or undernourished, the levels of nitrogen in the urine is an indication of how is the nourishment of the patient. When you want to make, in the other hand, in a healthy person, you want to know how much you need to eat, how much you need to excrete, they need to be similar. So equal. The intake should be similar as the outtake, okay, of what is coming out. So it should be similar. So that is what we call a balance between what you eat and what you come out. So if you eat certain amount of proteins, that proteins should be eliminated as a positive nitrogen balance. So that means that you are using you're using the proteins that you require in that day, and there is a surplus that are going to be eliminated. This surplus should be a very narrow range. So they cannot be a lot like a cat, right? But or other like a lion. Lion they pee a strong pee, right? Because they eat just meat, right? So in conclusion, if you want to know how much energy the patient or how much protein they require in a day, you need to make the nitrogen balance. That is a reflection of the nourishment of the patient. If there is going to be a negative nitrogen balance, there is two things. Negative nitrogen balance, you are sick or you are malnourished. If you have a positive nitrogen balance, you have in these special conditions like pregnancy or exercises, all right? So that is positive nitrogen balance. You are healthy right now. You don't need to do exercises, but you should be in positive nitrogen balance, not in negative. If you are in negative nitrogen balance, that means that you have a disease that are using all the resources they can, so that's why they cannot eliminate nitrogen, and or fasting, or you are fasting, okay? Or malnourished. Is that clear or no?
Clear.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Remember, positive nitrogen balance will be anabolic pregnancy exercises. Negative nitrogen balance. So let's do it again. Positive nitrogen balance. With positive nitrogen balance, we have nitrogen in the urine. Number one. Number two, you are in anabolic state. And number three, examples, pregnancy and exercises. Period. That's it. Negative nitrogen balance. Negative nitrogen balance means no nitrogen in the urine. Second, catabolic state. And third, you need to check for, especially in burns. In burns, you destroy so much tissue that you need all the proteins with all the nitrogen necessary to replace the damaged tissue, right? So infections, we have infections, injuries, burns, that is negative nitrogen balance. You're in catabolic state. Okay, so let's make an example. Tell me one thing. When you are sick, you're in the hospital, you have a patient, right? You have patients in the hospital, they are sick, okay? They are sick. So they are in positive or negative balance?
Negative.
Negative.
Negative balance. So what you need to do?
Increased protein intake.
Exactly. Quality proteins, correct? Right? So that is because why proteins? Why no carbohydrates? Why no fat? So we need that as a balanced diet, but we need specifically good quality proteins because the proteins contain the nitrogen that is the glue that put together structures to build up, to repair, to replace the tissue that was damaged during the infection or the disease. Make sense or not?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. All right, so now you know what is nitrogen balance, negative and positive nitrogen balance. Here we have the essential amino acids. We have amino acids, the histidine, isoleucine, threonine, tryptophan, leucine, lysine, methionine, phenylalanine, valine. You need to remember this. The answer is no. I'm not going to ask you any of these questions because in NCLEX, HESI, I can select this because I know what is coming in your program. I know about what is coming in MedSearch, what is coming in pharmacology, in OB, etc. So I've been exposed to that so many years, so I know what is coming. So this is not going to, but what you need a minimum is to just get familiar with the name. One of the names that you need to remember for this class is the phenylalanine. And in the future classes for pharmacology, you need to know the tryptophan. Tryptophan that is a precursor of some neurotransmitters that we are going to talk about another time. So phenylalanine is what is more immediately. We are going to talk about that phenylalanine. Okay. So, all right. So tell me one thing. If you have a lack of one of the amino acids, what can happen? What can happen if one of these or more of these essential amino acids are not present in your body?
Disease could happen.
Yeah, okay. What else?
Unable to form protein.
Unable to repair tissue, to replace tissue, correct? Yes or no?
Yes.
Because there is incomplete bricks. The bricks are not actually matching. The bricks are not present, so it's absent, some of the bricks. And you say the immune system, you get sick faster. Yes, because the enzymes, the antibodies are proteins, and they need some of these amino acids, essential amino acids. If you don't have these essential amino acids, you cannot produce antibodies. You cannot produce enzymes in the neutrophils. Enzymes are proteins, and they cannot kill the bacteria. So you get sick more easily. Got it? Excellent. Very good. All right, so here we have functions of the protein. Tissue building. Tissue building is number 1. Number 2, body defense system. The antibodies is going to be part of the metabolism. Why? Because the enzymes, right? Yes or no? Enzymes are going to be crucial component of the metabolic reactions. Yes or no? It's going to be, please, don't
Yes.
forget that, please. Water balance. Everybody forgot about water balance. Don't forget about water balance. Water balance is because the proteins attract water. Proteins attract water. Proteins attract water. And where it's going to make the proteins make stay the water in the intravascular space. Intravascular space. So, and 5, I'm going to put 5, a small one here, 5, because basically proteins are not used for energy. So can be using energy when you are bone and skin. When you are bone and skin, you don't have carbohydrates. You deplete the carbohydrates. You deplete all the fat. What is the only source you can have energy? From your own proteins. And that is the last resource. We don't want to use proteins. Okay? We get it?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Perfect. Okay, so here, what is this? Structural, fundamental structure produce, for example, the muscles. The muscles, when you do exercises, listen to this. Okay, I'm going to take my time, a little bit time here. When you do exercises, your muscles get bigger, correct? Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
When your muscle is bigger, please, just to make a more shortcut here,
Yes.
when your muscle get bigger, you do not produce more fibers of muscle. No, you don't create more fibers. Okay, they're not going to happen. They are not going to reproduce. So when you're doing exercises, that means that you have more muscle. Yes, but what does it mean, this more muscle? That doesn't mean more fibers, more fascicles. They do not have more fascicles. It's the same number of fibers. So what is happening? Why it become bigger? Because the fibers are going to incorporate, assimilate the proteins. So when you're doing exercises, you have more proteins inside the cells. When you're doing more exercises, you do not produce more fibers. What you are doing is to incorporate, to assimilate, to make inside the cell more proteins. You okay with that? But what else? The proteins inside the fiber or muscle cell are going to attract water. So your muscles start fiber by fiber, accumulate more proteins and contain more water. And that's why your muscle become bigger. You okay with that?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
Can you say that one more time? Rocky?
Okay. So the when you're doing exercises, you don't create more muscle. You don't create more fibers. You don't create more of these cells, muscle cells. You don't have not even one more muscle cell. You don't. Okay? So the question is, why my muscle get bigger? Why? Because when you are doing exercises, it's not going to reproduce new cells. What they are doing, the cells, is to put proteins inside the cell, like actin, myosin, troponin, tropomyosin, etc. So these proteins are going to be included in more quantity when you are doing exercises. And in addition to that, the proteins are going to attract water. So there's more fluid cell by cell, cell by cell, cell by cell. You can fluid, because each cell contains more proteins. And the proteins attract water. We will talk about that, right? Attract water. So overall, counting all the fibers simultaneously, your muscle start to get bigger. Is that clear or no?
So Dr. G, like for example, the bodybuilder has the same amount of muscle fibers as like a regular person. It's just that they have more protein in their muscle fibers.
Exactly. So tell me one thing. Don't you see these bodybuilders, they eat proteins a lot?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
That is the reason.
So,
Because they want to incorporate the proteins in the muscles.
and the water makes the muscles swell, right?
Well, exactly.
Okay.
That is called, write it down, hypertrophy. When you have your muscle big because you are doing hypertrophy of your muscle. That is the medical term. Oh, your muscles are hypertrophic, or have hypertrophy. So that is medical field, but in a colloquial, when you go to the gym, your muscle is big. Your muscle is bigger, right? Depends where you're going to talk. If you're going to go to these coaches and say hypertrophy, they say, what? They just keep it for you, but you know what is hypertrophy. Hypertrophy is increase in size. Increase in size. Okay, we got it? So the proteins are going to be part of the structure. The walls of the building are going to be proteins. So that's so important. All right, so proteins repair worn out, waste, and damaged tissue. We already know that it's all news. Energy, be careful with that, please, because we don't use proteins for energy. We don't use proteins for energy, but can be used in extreme situations. You okay with that?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe used as a fuel if carbohydrates and fat are not enough. All right. So next, tissue building, energy, water balance, plasmatic proteins. Plasma proteins attract water, resulting in maintenance of normal circulation. Attract water. So everybody got about that? Everybody's clear about that? Do you realize how important it is to talk about the water balance and the proteins in the intravascular space? Everybody can tell me intravascular space, please? Intravascular. Say intravascular. At least you can tell me.
Intravascular.
Wow, look at that, right? So it sounds very interesting, right? Intravascular means inside the vessel. Right? If somebody you talk and somebody do not understand that, you can explain, of course, right? Okay. So intravascular. Intravascular is the water is going to be attract in the intravascular space because of the proteins.
So
oh yeah, go ahead.
So if a patient has edema, would you increase their protein intake so that way the water can go into the intravascular space?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and yes. So in the opposite, If you don't have enough proteins, what happens with the water in the intravascular space? They are going to escape, yes or no?
Yes.
And that produces edemas. So you see these malnourished people, they have swollen face, swollen hands, swollen legs, swollen everything, right? Right? Okay.
Right.
Then we have buffer. Buffer. Give me one buffer name that is a protein.
Hemoglobin.
Hemoglobin.
Everybody got that? Everybody got that? Please. Hemoglobin. Hemoglobin. Hemoglobin is a protein that is going to work as a buffer. So just to refresh you again, the hemoglobin is inside the red blood cells. All right, so we have we don't have only one hemoglobin in one red blood cell. We have 24,000 average molecules of hemoglobin for every single red blood cell. So now, when in the blood you have too much hydrogens, that means your pH is acid, all right? So that excess of hydrogens need to be removed. And what is doing? The hydrogens in excess, the excess of those hydrogens are going to pass into the red blood cell captured by the hemoglobin. So hemoglobin is going to collect that excess of hydrogens in the blood and put it inside the red blood cell. In that case, the pH get into the normal levels, 735 to 745. You okay with that?
Yes.
Yes.
Of course, we have all the other different buffers, right? Bicarbonate, phosphates, etc. Right? So those are one of, but bicarbonate is a buffer, right? So hemoglobin, myoglobin is a buffer. So there are different buffers. All right, so metabolism, proteins are part of the enzymes. Enzymes. Yeah, what is the lipase? What is the amylase? What is the protease? What is the all these trypsin, chymotrypsin, enterokinases? So those are enzymes, and those are proteins. So proteins is everywhere. Transportation, the albumin. So proteins so important, right? We have the lipoproteins, who are the ones who transport the cholesterol and triglycerides, right? The immune system, white cells, antibodies, the white cells. So the white cells are going to be this is energy, this is water balance, metabolism, this is the mitochondria, and the immune system, right? The immune system that is going to protect us against bacteria infections. All right, so food sources of protein. So complete.
Yeah.
Yes, dear. Go ahead.
I just wanted to let you know that it's 11:57.
Okay, 3 minutes, and we going to lunch break. Okay, 3 minutes. Yes, let me know at 12, please. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Okay. Food resources of protein, complete proteins and incomplete protein. Complete proteins is the meat. Period. Incomplete proteins is the plant. So that is important to understand who is having a balanced diet versus a vegan person. A vegan is going to have just vegetables, right? And that is going to be having incomplete proteins, means that they are not going to provide the essential 9 amino acids. So what to do with a patient who is vegan, right? So first of all, we need to remember what is the type of vegan we have. We have lacto-ovo-vegetarian. Lacto-ovo-vegetarian. It's not called lacto-ovo-vegan, right? Vegan, when you say vegan, is just strictly plants, nothing else. Nothing else. But when you add to your diet vegetarian, you like, for example, egg or milk, they have different names. It's called this lacto-ovo-vegetarian. Lacto-ovo-vegetarian means milk or lacteal products. Ovo means egg, vegetarian. So they eat just salad, milk, dairy products, and egg. The other one is lacto-vegan or lacto-vegetarian. Lacto-vegetarian. Lacto-vegetarian, they go plants and they take milk. And ovo-vegetarian are going to be the plants plus eggs. only. And vegan is going to be just plants. Okay? So now, here we have that. So what is a solution? Who can tell me what could be a solution here? Right? I don't want because of beliefs or my principles, I don't eat animal food. So what I should do? So remember this question for NCLEX, for no NCLEX, for my exam, for final. So you need to remember the soybean, the soybean and tofu. These two guys contain the 9 essential amino acids. So you need, if you don't want to eat meat, that is okay, but you need to eat soybean basically and tofu. So that's why soybean in the market is so in demand. China, Asia, many countries, they use a lot of soybean because they have the essential amino acids. These are the only ones in vegetables. You okay with that?
Dr. J, it's 12 o'clock. And yes, I got it.
All right. So let me finish these two statements and we go to break. During a vegetarian diet, anemia and weak bones may result because the minerals are depleted by the phytic acid. So phytic acid is a substance that is, when you eat too much grains, only grains, they can produce the minerals to be depleted. And that is question for the exam, phytic acid. Phytic acid. Phytic acid is a substance that we have in the grains, cereals, etc. And there, if you eat just this in big amounts, they are going to deplete the minerals that can lead into iron deficiency or bone weakness, like calcium deficiency. Okay, so what time is it? Is we are going to start our lunch break. Is 12:01. I'm going to give you until 12:33. Okay, 33, 12:33. You okay with that?
Yes,
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Hello.
Hello, Dr. G.
Very good. So let's continue. Okay. All right. So let's review about. So that is about proteins. Okay. So we are going to talk about digestion of proteins. One thing I want to mention is this. Let me see here. Now that we have a big picture about what is the metabolism of nutrients, I want to go to the Krebs cycle because it's going to be important for the later on diabetes. We are going to talk about diabetes. Let me see if I have the picture that I used to have. Where is that? Okay. Give me just a few moments. If not, I'm going to do manually. This one. Remember this? This is your super favorite, right? Remember?
Yes.
Okay, so we are going to go from the perspective of diabetes mellitus. Okay, so please pay attention to this. So we have proteins on one side here, proteins. We have carbohydrates and fats, okay? If you see here, this is important. So this is an irreversible reaction when they go to pyruvic acid and acetyl-CoA. Acetyl-CoA is a transitional zone that is going to enter into the mitochondria. So all this is happening in the mitochondria. This is the mitochondria. Okay? And what happened here, look at this. Carbohydrates, they go to pyruvic acid and they go acetyl-CoA. And then from acetyl-CoA, they go into the Krebs cycle. That is number one. So if you see here, we have the fats. The fats are going to go into beta oxidation, and they are going to go into acetyl-CoA. Question: the fat can produce glucose?
No.
Fat cannot, right? Because
No.
all fat, the metabolism of fat, they are going to go into acetyl-CoA. And the acetyl-CoA, in order to get to glucose, they are going to need to go back to pyruvic acid and then to glucose. But this is only one direction. So this is an irreversible reaction. So that's why fat cannot turn into glucose. It's not right to think that because you deplete, listen, it's not right. It's not right. That if you deplete the glucose, the fat is going to turn into glucose to produce ATPs. No. The fat itself directly can get into the acetyl-CoA to produce actually the ATPs enter into the Krebs cycle. Is that clear or not?
Yes.
Okay. So here the problem is that you have here the pyruvic acid, acetyl-CoA coming from a carbohydrate. They produce 38 ATPs. And the fat produce, when they get into the Krebs cycle, 180 ATPs. That is good. But the problem is that when the fatty acids are trying to get into the Krebs cycle, so the acetyl-CoA, they are going to produce the ketone bodies. Ketone bodies. So in addition, so it's this is a cons and pros here. So the fatty acid produce a lot of ATPs, but when that happens, it's going to produce ketone bodies that are acid. This acidity go to the blood and produce what we call diabetic ketoacidosis. They can kill the patient. Okay, so that is one. The last part is going to be the proteins. The proteins you see here, we have the nitrogen. They're going to be used for tissue, right? Some of them, let's make it one here. They're going to go into the urea cycle. So they are going to have ammonia here, ammonia, and the ammonia go to the liver, and the liver transform into urea. The urea are going to be eliminated. Another pathway of the nitrogen is going to be directly to pyruvic acid. Directly to pyruvic acid. This, can you see this arrow coming to pyruvic acid? And pyruvic acid can actually is a reversible reaction. So the pyruvic acid coming from this nitrogen coming from proteins can lead into glucose. So proteins can produce glucose. Proteins can produce glucose. And that is called the gluconeogenesis. The gluconeogenesis. That is going to be caused by, for example, cortisol. Cortisol is the stress hormone that is going to elevate the glucose in blood. And this cortisol, through the gluconeogenesis, are going to take some proteins and they're going to go into glucose. Every morning you need certain amount of glucose because that is the energy when you're going to start working, doing your own stuff. Okay? We got it? So very different. You see here, the metabolism of the protein can go into urea, one. They can go into gluconeogenesis. They can go to acetyl-CoA. That, in this case, is when you deplete totally the fat, totally the carbohydrates. They are going to use acetyl-CoA as proteins as a source of energy to produce ATPs. Okay, we got it? So, if you have fat, if you have carbohydrates, listen, if you have carbohydrates, if you eat too much carbohydrates, you don't need more ATPs, remember? So the body will not be able, it's not going to use more ATPs than they need. So if you still eating carbohydrates, surplus of carbohydrates, this process is going to be blocked because you don't need more ATPs. So they are going to accumulate acetyl-CoA. This accumulation of acetyl-CoA, they can go back into fat. So if you eat excess of carbs, that excess of carbs can turn into fat. We okay with that?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Excellent. So it's very unusual, very rare that when you are using already protein, basically this pathway of the proteins, when you basically proteins cannot produce fat. Technically, yes, can do. But when you are using proteins, it's because you already have or you deplete all your fat, all the carbohydrates. So none of them are going to be going to fat. So everything is going to produce ATPs because you don't have any other resource. So, but technically, theoretically, they can go and produce fat. Okay? But just, and one more thing. When you have acetyl-CoA here, acetyl-CoA, please remember this, acetyl-CoA, and you already have all the supply of ATPs that you require, that is not going to enter into the Krebs cycle. Not enter. So acetyl-CoA plus another molecule of acetyl-CoA because it's accumulated, because they cannot pass into the Krebs cycle, you don't need more ATPs, that two molecules of acetyl-CoA are going to produce one molecule of cholesterol. That is where is coming the cholesterol. And the cholesterol is formed in the liver. We talked about it in the previous class. Okay, so that is a review. You okay with that? Okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So let's talk about the digestion. This is a review. I'm going to point a few more things here that are actually important. Digestion starts in the mouth. So we are talking about digestion of proteins. Okay, so digestion is going to start in the mouth with hydrolysis, with the water, hydrolysis, and amylase. The amylase is going to be for carbohydrates, so it's not going to participate. But the digestion, the chemical digestion starts with the hydrolysis of they start to separate the proteins into polypeptides, in peptides or polypeptides, peptides. Remember, peptides is called to polypeptides. Polypeptides. What are those? There are a small chain of amino acids. So amino acids that are going to come together, they form peptides or polypeptides. And then a group of polypeptides are going to form what we call a protein. A protein. Okay, perfect. So digestion of proteins start in the mouth. Then we have the stomach. In the stomach, acid, right? Acid is going to basically digest everything because acid is going to just breaking down whatever it is. Acid, gastric acid, the HCl, are going to be produced about 0.6 liters a day. And this HCl can basically break down fat, carbohydrates, and proteins. Okay? So enzymatic breakdown of proteins, we have proenzymes, cymogens, that is going to be a no active enzyme. So cymogens will be basically when we found that they are going to pass these enzymes to the duodenum. In the duodenum, if you remember, the stomach have a pH 2 stomach. When they go to the duodenum, in the duodenum, they are going to neutralize with the pH of the pancreatic juice, that is the pH 12 pancreatic juice. And here is going to be a more neutral environment. So the pH is very close to 7, very close to 7. And you remember from your bioscience, this is crucial, the enzymes are going to be basically working in neutral environment. So mostly of the enzymes are not going to work if they're acid or they're alkaline. They're going to work when they are in neutral environment. And when this neutral environment happens, in the duodenum, because of the mix of the pH 2 of the chyme of the stomach plus the pH 12 of the pancreatic juice, pH 2 versus 12, acid versus alkaline, they are going to neutralize each other. And that is the moment where the enzymes are going to start working. Okay? All right, so pancreas, we have the trypsin, chymotrypsin, carbopeptidase. All these guys, and I'm not going to ask these names, but I want you to get familiar with this, are called the proteases. So those are enzymes specifically on the pancreatic juice who is going to break down the proteins. We have the trypsin, chymotrypsin, and carbopeptidase. So this is, remember, we have the lipase, the amylase, the protease. The protease is a group of enzymes called the trypsin, chymotrypsin, and carbopeptidase. So just remember as a protease. And remember one thing, these enzymes are going to be active in that duodenum where we have more alkaline environment, pH 2 plus pH 12 of the pancreatic juice. That's why this protease, amylase, and the lipase in the pancreas, when they are in the pancreas, they are not working. They are not working because they are in alkaline environment. And this not is going to protect the pancreas to be destroyed by this enzyme, because this enzyme, what they are going to digest are proteins, carbohydrates, and lipids. And the tissue of the pancreas contains all these components. So they are not going to auto-destroy the pancreas by this enzyme because they are in an environment that is very alkaline. They are looking and waiting for an environment to be active in an environment that is neutral. And that happens when they go into the duodenum. You be okay with that?
Yes, Dr. G.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. So we have some other enzymes in the intestine that are going to digest proteins. What I want to focus is in the dipeptidase. Can you tell me, somebody just reading in this name, one name of the enzymes? Dipeptidase. What does it mean? Give me one name.
That's similar to that?
Break down to polypeptide.
Dipeptidase are going to break down disaccharides. Someone more familiar now? Dipeptidase is a general name. This is an umbrella. Umbrella for different enzymes. The maltase, that is a dipeptidase. that are going to break down the maltase into the maltose. Sorry, the maltase is the enzyme. The maltase break down the maltose that going to break down into glucose and glucose monosaccharides. We have the lactase that is a dipeptidase. Lactose is the disaccharide, correct? Oh, what I'm talking about? Oh my God, I make a mistake. Sorry. Sorry. I just. This is about protein. It's not about carbohydrates. This dipeptidase. Okay, I'm apologize. I'm going to correct myself. Is when you have two peptides together. Peptides. Oh God. Okay, peptides. So these peptides, you remember that we have amino acids that are going to turn into peptides. So peptides are a group of amino acids. And this group of amino acids, they coming together. Many of them are going to create a protein. So these dipeptides are going to ACE is an enzyme that are going to break down the peptides that are coming in group of 2. They are going to break it down. And these peptides then is going to turn into amino acids. Okay?
Yes.
All right, so the other enzymes I was mentioning is the maltase. This is for carbohydrates. Carbohydrate, we have the maltase, the lipase, maltase, the lactase, and the sucrase. And these enzymes are going to break down the sucrose. At the same time, the sucrose are going to break down into fructose and glucose. And the lactase, this is an enzyme that is going to act into the lactose that divide into galactose and glucose. And the maltase that is going to act on the maltose that divide in glucose and glucose. Okay? All right, so in conclusion about this slide, what do I want you to remember all these names? The answer is no. I don't want you to remember basically all these names. What I want you to remember as a concept is that the carbohydrate, the proteins are going to be digested from the mouth to the small intestine. So every portion of the GI tract that is going to have a chemical digestion for the proteins, starting from the mouth, stomach. The pancreas is going to give these enzymes and the small intestine. Is that clear?
Yes.
Clear.
Okay. All right. Sorry for that. All right. So body needs for proteins, tissue growth. So why we need proteins? Tissue growth. This is number one. We have the dietary protein quality. We are talking about the biological value. The biological value is the absorbed protein from diet that incorporate the proteins into the body. So biological value. So that means that there are going to be all these amino acids. They have high biological value because these amino acids are going to be part of the assimilation. That means they become part of the tissue. The proteins become part of your cell, part of your body. It's not just running over the bloodstream. It's going to be part and make a function, have a specific function in some part of your body. So that means that the proteins have high biological value. Make sense or not?
Yes.
Okay.
So Dr. G, what wouldn't have a high biological value in our body?
Why?
No, so what wouldn't have a high biological value in our body?
Okay, so all right, so number one. So let me see if I understand your question. So you telling me why is this a high biological value? That's what you're asking?
No. So since amino acids have a high biological value,
Yeah.
what is something in our body that does not have a
Oh,
biological value?
basically everything. everything, all the structures. So all the structures are needed. We don't have extra that we, everything in the body is used, is have a function. Everything is in place. Everything have a function, and basically all the tissues are going to need a high biological need. Need of amino acids, because they are going to be the structure of the organ itself. So I will not say that any of the protein, any of the proteins have low biological value. All of them, they have high biological value. So that's why we call proteins, they are high biological value, because they are going to be part of our structure. I don't know if that answers your question, or you want me to elaborate in different way or something.
No. That's good. Thank you, Dr. G.
Okay, thank you. High quality protein food is a type of food that contains a lot of proteins and is free of harmful food preservatives. So remember, we was talking about the steak, the big steak here of 100 grams of proteins, and you have here another steak with 100 grams of proteins. This is going to be called a high quality protein food. High quality protein food. Why? Because we have 100 grams of proteins, and here we have high 100 proteins. That means that it's more dense here and more concentrated, and we don't have the fat and other components that are in this big steak. You okay with that? So high quality protein food, high density of proteins like this density, free of preservative. So that is just to complete the definition that we was talking in the previous class. Where you find this? Organic foods, the high content, lean food, the lean meat are going to be high quality already proteins with what we call high biological value. All right, so dietary deficiency or excess, protein, energy, malnutrition, we have kwashiorkor. So please, I don't want you to get confused with what is that? The rickets. What is a rickets disease? Okay, rickets disease is not kwashiorkor marasmus. So there's sometimes they get confused on that. So the rickets disease are going to be the deficit or diminished absorption of vitamin D. That is nothing to do with these proteins. Okay, rickets disease is deficiency of vitamin D. All right, so nothing to do with this. So we have marasmus and kwashiorkor. Kwashiorkor is deficiency of proteins. Deficiency of proteins. Marasmus is when happening in less than 2 years old, and kwashiorkor when happening in more than 2 years old. Why they make the differentiation? Basically are the same, but the impact of low levels of proteins in less than 2 years old are much more severe than the kwashiorkor, because in the first 2 years, the baby starts trying to complete the development of the central nervous system, especially, right? And that delay, you know that you still reproducing nerve cells, neurons, until the age of 26, correct? So if you have an early deficit of production of new cells, because they need proteins, that protein means enzymes to multiply the cells, to the cell division, etc. So if that occur in less than 2 years old, it's going to be more severe, especially cognitive area is going to be very severe. Not mental retardation, but definitely will be like IQ normally is probably 19, 85, something like that. Okay, when that is borderline. In kwashiorkor is happening after 2 years. It's less severe than marasmus. When that deficiency of protein happens after 2 years, that is going to be not as severe as marasmus. How to remember kwashiorkor and marasmus? Marasmus is short name, less than 2 years. Kwashiorkor, long name, more than 2 years. Is you okay with that?
Yes.
Okay. One of the things that you need to remember is, especially the bodybuilders. The bodybuilders they eat a lot of proteins. Yes or no? You
Yes.
understand now, thank you, that these guys doing exercises, they want to incorporate, assimilate the proteins into the muscles, right? And in addition to that, they have a big gallon of water. Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. So because of these patients, what they are going to produce is acidosis, because the fat can produce ketone bodies that are very acid, and the proteins can lead into ketone bodies too. So these ketone bodies are very acid. So what they are trying to do is to drink a lot of water to flush it out from the body. So in order not to get into metabolic acidosis. See? So that is why this, when you have this excess of ketone bodies, excess of urea, because if you eat a lot of proteins, you are going to produce more urea, right? So the kidneys are going to be very difficult. They don't handle very much or very well, because it's not easy to eliminate the urea through the kidneys. Okay, so that is going to produce an extra burden. So that's why they're trying to minimize the effect, drinking a lot of water to flush it out as soon as possible. Going to our cats. So the main problem of the cats with age is kidney failure, right? Yes or no? You have a cat? The main problems of very old cats is kidney failure. Why? Because they eat a lot of proteins, and not necessarily they are going to drink the water that they require. So basically, the cats with age, they can have kidney problem, kidney failure. That is one of the main problems of the cats in the long run, because they eat a lot of proteins. Okay, we okay with that?
Okay.
In humans, of course, kidney is going to be an extra, going to be extra work. It's going to be extra. So we don't want that. So, so this diet of proteins, just proteins, is not healthy. In other words.
Dr. J, so just to reiterate, excess protein is a burden on the kidneys because it's trying to prevent the body from becoming acidic by filtering the protein out.
The urea, no, protein, no, the urea.
Okay.
So the excess of protein are going to be always turned into urea. And you drink a lot of water because you want to force the filtration. You want filtration means the elimination through the urine of the urea. You don't want to keep the urea too long in your body because it's toxic. Plus the urea is going to be difficult to be eliminated. So you try to force taking fluids in order to eliminate that urea too. Okay? So in conclusion, if you eat a lot of proteins, you need to take a lot of water because your kidney is suffering. So you minimize the problem of the kidneys. It can happen in the long run. No, it's not like a one time and you have problems already, kidney failure. No, it's in the long run. So taking water is going to flush it out all these ketone bodies and the urea excess. All right, so let's, from all perspectives of view, we have high biological value proteins. Basically, are going to be sourced from the for animal source because they have the 9 amino acids, the 9 essential amino acids. Low biological value are basically plants, vegetables, because they do not have all the amino acids that are required. All right, so the recommended amount of protein that you need in a day approximately is going to be 0.8 grams per kilogram of desirable weight. So for example, if you are 70 kilos, that means 150 pounds about. You have transformed that in 70 kilos. So conversion. And you know that for every kilo, you have 0.8. So you multiply 0.8 times 0. By 70, and that is going to give you 56 grams a day. 56 grams a day. All right. So, for example, this if you are 180 pounds and then you want to have what is your desired weight is 170 pounds. You want to go 70 pounds. So, how much protein you need to eat in order to reach this weight? And that is going to happen with carbohydrates and lipids. We are going to learn that another time. For this class and for this quiz, I want you to remember how much of proteins we need we need in a day. So if your weight right now is 180, transform that into kilos. That is about 79 kilograms, and that multiplied by 0.8. And that is going to be 72, 56, 60, 63, right? About 63. 63 grams of proteins. Okay? So how much protein you need now to keep your weight at this moment? 0.8 kilograms, grams per kilogram per day. Okay? All right, so dietary reference intakes. 10 to 35% of total caloric intake from protein. So you need to remember that the protein is going 1 gram of protein. 1 gram of protein is going to have 4 kilocalories. 1 gram of fat is going to have 9 kilocalories. 1 gram of carbohydrates are going to have 4 kilocalories per every gram. Every gram. Alcohol is going to have, for 1 gram of alcohol, are going to give you 7 kilocalories. So people who are drinking can be obese because they consume a lot of calories. Okay? All right, so now look at this. If you consume 2,200 kilocalories per day, so for a student, basically it's about 2,500 kilocalories average, right? Average is the amount of kilocalories that you require in a day. So then for this, you're going to take 10 to 30%. So let's make it 10 to 35%. Proteins are going to be 20% average, right? So if you take from all these kilocalories that representing the carbohydrates, fats, and lipids, okay, 20% of these 2,200 are going to be proteins, and that's what we are going to do. So 2,200 kilocalories times the percentage here, 10% to 35%, go from 220 to 707 kilocalories per day from protein. So that is the kilocalories that you are going to receive from the proteins alone. Okay. Now, how many grams represent that? All right. So let's do this. So let's make it like 220. Okay. If you have 220 kilocalories, right? You know you want to know how many grams of protein you need. Okay, so now you already know that this is the total diet in a day. So you take about the 20%. Let's make it 10% because the graphic is like 10%. This is the range, 10% to 35%, average 20%. So let's make it 10%. So that means that 10% of this is going to be the kilocalories for the protein alone. So that is going to give you 220 kilocalories from proteins alone. But if you want to know how many grams you have, okay, so you will say, if 1 gram of protein is going to give me 4 kilocalories, this amount, 220 kilocalories, how much grams I will have? Remember, grams and grams on the top, kilocalories on the bottom. And you do the equation, and you are going to divide it by 2. Basically, that is going to be about the, no, there's 2. X, this is X. It's going to be 55 grams of protein. Is that clear or no? You want me to repeat that? You want me to repeat that or no?
No, that's clear.
So it's
Is that clear, or you want me to repeat one more time? Tell me, please.
Can you repeat one more time, please?
Okay. Let's suppose that you're a student, and please use your calculators. Okay, just help me with that. And let's do that. Your total kilocalories in a day is going to be 2,500. Okay, so you need 2,500 kilocalories per day. You okay with that? From these 2,500 kilocalories, 20% will be proteins. From these are going to be 30% are going to be fat, and 50% are going to be carbs. You follow me? Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
So we want to know how many grams of protein you need from this amount. So you're going to tell me what is 20% of 25 or 2,500. That is going to be 500, right? 500 kilocalories, correct?
Yes.
All right. So okay, 500 kilocalories. So that is per day, correct? Perfect. So now these 500 kilocalories, how many grams of proteins are? In how many grams of protein will we find? If you have that in 1 gram of protein, you have 4 kilocalories, how many grams you will have if I going to need 500 kilocalories? So X is going to be 1 gram times 500 kilocalories divided by 4 kilocalories. Kilocalories and kilocalories, they go away, is going to be divided by this, is going to be 125 grams. Right? Right? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay? And you can do the same for the fat.
Makes sense.
Thank you. The fat is going to be, for example, 30% of 2,500. That is going to be about 810 kilocalories. And the half here of carbohydrates will be 1,250 in carbohydrate, kilocalories. So, but now you want to know how many grams of fat you're going to eat. So if you know that 1 gram of fat is going to have 9 kilocalories, how many grams I will find in 810 kilocalories? And you have your answer there. In the carbohydrates, if I have in 1 gram of carbohydrates, I have 4 kilocalories, how many grams are going to be when I'm going to need 1,250 kilocalories? And then you can tell now how much of proteins in grams, how much protein and carbohydrates and fat in grams you will need in a day. You okay with that? Everybody got that, please?
Yes.
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 Okay.
yeah.
All right. So we have the summary here. Complete proteins diet contain all the amino acids and animal origin. Incomplete plants, vegetarian diets, only plants, proteins, vegan. So you need to complete with soybean or tofu. Protein balance, we have actually dietary protein, but it's a pool of amino acids. So these amino acids are going to be, at the end, they're going to be eliminated because we don't store amino acids. We don't store proteins. Digestions, we have several proteins. I'm not going to ask you which proteins are you using. So just remember that the proteins are being digested, break it down from the mouth to the intestine, to the small intestine. All right, so clinically, fever, disease, surgery, or other trauma of the body are going to, when you have these problems, do you need more proteins, yes or no? When you have fever, yeah, when you have fever, you have a disease, right? They are regenerating tissue. They are replacing the tissue that is being damaged. So in this case, you are in negative balance of protein. So you need to increase your diet with more proteins. You okay with that?
Yes.
Protein needs are going to be 0.8 grams per kilogram per day. We already talked about that. Okay, so you change your from pounds to kilos and multiply by 0.8. So that is the amount of protein that you require. All right, so let's talk about the this part. What time is it? I want to know. So we have time. All right, so this is a basically review. Okay, so mechanical and chemical digestion. Mechanical is the chewing. What else? Mechanical digestion. Digestion, you need to know what is digestion first. Digestion is breaking down. Mechanical could be by chewing or by the peristalsis. Yes or no?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yes.
what is the function? What is the function of the peristalsis? Two functions.
Yes.
Two functions of the peristalsis.
To move food forward.
One, and the other one. Somebody, please. Chris, it's coming your name to my mind first. Alejandro?
No, I had the same answer.
Okay. Peristalsis is going to move. It's going to help to mix. Make sense? It's going to make to mix what? With the enzymes. So that movement of peristalsis, contraction and relaxation, besides that they are going to make help to pass, to move forward the components, they are going to mix. They are going to mix the lipase, so the amylase, they are going to make more contact. So that is what is going to help for the digestion. You okay with that?
Yes.
Okay. Chemical digestion, start with the mouth, intestine, so you have all several enzymes that are going to digest proteins, carbohydrates, and lipids. Okay. All right, so this is a theoretical statement. I'm not going to ask that, but let's go about this. The body cannot use food as it is eaten. Obviously, a piece of chicken is not running in your blood. What is running is the amino acids of that piece of chicken. Okay? And remember, the absorption is going to happen by facilitate diffusion, mostly. Facilitate diffusion, that is a passive transportation. And the one who is going to be transported are the monomers, the monomers. In carbohydrates, the monosaccharides. In fats, the fatty acids. And proteins, the amino acids. Amino acids is a monomer, fatty acids is a monomer, and monosaccharides, glucose, galactose, fructose are going to be monosaccharides, monomers. Okay with that?
Yes.
Okay, principle of wholeness. So if you remember the functions of the GI tract, it will be the digestion, the absorption, and the excretion. Remember that?
Mhm.
Absorption.
Yes.
So first of all, digestion, then absorption, and then the excretion. So that is the main components of the function of the GI tract. So tell me, and please, this is a very, very important moment. In order to have a good nutrition, you need to have a good digestion, correct?
Yes.
You need to have a good,
Yes.
a good absorption
Yes.
and excretion. Otherwise, the toxic levels are going to make you unhealthy. So
Yeah.
going to be digestion, absorption, and excretion. And where is that start? Start in the mouth. Continue in the esophagus, stomach, small intestine, large intestine. So what I'm trying to tell you is this. If you want to have a very good nutrition, you need to have the GI tract working at 100%. For example, you will have bad nutrition if you don't have teeth. Make sense?
Yes.
If you have ulcers in your mouth,
Yes.
right? If you have a narrowing of the esophagus, or if you have ulcers, or if you have a low gastric acid in the stomach, or if you don't have enough pancreatic juice, or if you don't have enough bile. So all these need to be all together working as a unit. If one of the things are not working, teeth, saliva, swallowing, narrowing of the esophagus, the liver is not releasing bile, is not producing bile, the gallbladder is removed or whatever. Pancreatic juice, you don't produce enough pancreatic juice. You don't have enough peristalsis. Anything that can happen from A to Z when we're talking about the functions and characteristics of the GI tract, if some of them, only one is going to be affected, the rest is going to be affected. As a consequence, you can have a malnourishment. You okay with that? Okay.
Yeah.
So that's called the principle of wholeness. Okay. All right, so mechanical, and here we have the peristalsis. You remember when you put something in your mouth, it's going to be bolus. When they go into the stomach, it's going to be chyme. Just to refresh you, the chyme is going to stay in the stomach for about, they're going to start to evacuate the stomach in 30 minutes. And the stomach will be completely empty in 2 hours. Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that is very important. That is an AMP. So please remember that. It's very important in pharmacology. It's very important in many other topics. So please remember, we are talking about malnourishment. Mechanical and chemical action, digestive process. We already talked about that. A question? There's a question there? Okay. So here we have mechanical digestion is the GI motility. Right, so the motility. So listen to this. Please pay attention. If you right now, you produce, you know what, about 700 mLs of saliva every day. You know that? 600 to 700 mLs of saliva every day. So what you're doing with the saliva? Unconsciously, it's normal for you to swallow saliva, yes or no? Once a day, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, when you swallow, what's happening with the pharynx are going to start the contraction, and is going to continue this effect towards the esophagus and the stomach. So it's going to do. It's like you shake a blanket, shake a blanket, shake a blanket. Shaking a blanket, you have these waves coming through the blanket. Correct? Yes or no? Now. But when you have saliva, you are basically swallowing probably once every minute, once every 2 minutes, right? And that is going to propagate the wave. So it's like your hands are when you swallow, shaking, and the blanket is the esophagus, stomach, and the rest of the intestine, and that is going to promote the waves. That is called the peristalsis. Okay, but when you are eating, you are swallowing every probably 10 seconds. Yes or no? You're eating, swallow and swallow and swallow and swallow. Correct? That continuously swallowing during your meals are going to do this, like shaking the blanket, and the peristalsis are going to be stimulated. More peristalsis, and what is doing peristalsis? Peristalsis is moving forward the food towards the rectum, the anus, correct? And that's why it's normal after a meal, people have the sensation to go to the bathroom after half an hour or after 1 hour after the meals. Why? Because you was eating, promoting the peristalsis, making the fecal material go towards the rectum. And the rectum starts to distend. And when the rectum starts to distend, because it's full of fecal material, there is a reflex that is coming, like a rubber band. The more distended the rubber band, the more the rubber band pulls you back. And the more distension of the rectum, because peristalsis was pushing forward the fecal material to the rectum distend, and that is going to produce the reflex. And that is when you have the sensation to go to the bathroom. We okay with that?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, you're not lying to me, right?
Yes.
You're not lying to me, no? No? No?
No.
You're not. Okay, thank you. So it's clear. That's what I want to know. It's clear, please or no? Somebody get behind?
I think I'm definitely gonna have to study a lot of this, but for right now, it's pretty clear.
Okay, thank you. Okay, the intestine is going to have muscles. Okay, it's called circular internal, longitudinal external. We don't care about that, but definitely the wall of the wall of the GI tract measure about 3 millimeters thicker, the wall. So it's not that big. It's not that thick. And actually, in the wall we have muscle, a smooth muscle that is going to produce the peristalsis. So remember, peristalsis is moving the food in one direction, only distally towards the anus. Nerves, we have intramural nerve plexus. So actually, you see here, this is the wall of the intestine, and we have different layers. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4 layers. But in between the layers, we have plexus. Plexus is a group of nerves. Remember, the muscle, they need the electrical impulse that is going to release the acetylcholine, all right? And these nerves are going to be immersed in between, in the middle of the muscle of the wall of the intestine. These are called the Meissner and Auerbach mesenteric plexus. So I don't want you just get familiar with the name, because I know Mr. Verdad loves to talk about Meissner and Auerbach, okay? And why he likes to talk about that, because there's a pathology about this. This is when there's a pathology that you don't have these nerves. There is no Meissner, there is no Auerbach plexus. Plexus is a group of nerves. If you don't have this, peristalsis in that area is not going to happen. And this is going to produce a distension, because the food is coming by contraction, by peristalsis is coming, but but this area is not doing peristalsis. So what happened? It starts to accumulate. They cannot keep moving the food forward. So they are going to start to accumulate and produce the megacolon. That is a congenital disorder. So, but the concept for this class is to let you know that the peristalsis is controlled by the nervous system. And they have plexus. Plexus is a group of nerve cells that are immersed within the wall of the intestine. Okay? So it's muscle. So we have, in conclusion, we have muscles and nerves. Muscles and nerves in the wall and vessels, of course, arteries and veins, right? So here we have the lumen. This is the mucosa of the intestine. This is the vessels, and this is the nerves. This is the nerves. They are not mentioned the Meissner and the Auerbach. Oh, there you are. Auerbach plexus and the Meissner plexus. These guys are the ones who release the acetylcholine, rest and digest, that is going to produce the giant cat in this case, right? And that is going to produce the contraction of the intestine, peristalsis. Is that clear?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So let's talk about the mechanical digestion. Then we talk about the digestive, right? So we have everything, all these enzymes, especially the gastric acid, is hydrochlorhydric acid, HCl. You need to know both ways, okay? That is going to produced by the walls of the cell of of the stomach. Look at this. What I want to tell you is this. This is the stomach wall, this portion. Okay? So here we have muscles of the stomach, whatever. So this is one piece of the stomach. So if you see here, this is the cells, parietal cells, whatever, other cells, enterochromaffin cells. There are many cells here. And these cells, what they're going to do is they can actually, they are going to produce gastric acid. So forget about that, is another situation. So they are going to produce gastric acid. But if you produce gastric acid, pH 2, this is going to destroy these cells, yes or no? But we don't want that. So what happened? The gastric acid is going to be transported to the lumen, here in yellow. And in between the lumen and in between the cells, this is the cells and this is the lumen, in between we have a mucosa, a mucus that is a barrier that will be preventing the action of the acid to destroy the cells. These mucus are going to be produced by prostaglandins, we talked in the previous. When you take aspirin, the prostaglandins are going to be blocked, so the mucosa start to get thinner. If you have gastric acid have a higher risk to touch the tissue of the stomach and produce ulcers. So that's why we have this mucosa, this mucus. These mucus are going to be a barrier protecting the stomach from the gastric acid. You okay with that? Okay? Yes?
Yeah.
Okay, so then we need to talk about water and electrolytes. Water electrolytes are important in our diet. You remember, we need sodium, potassium, chloride, magnesium. So this water can produce some hydrolysis. So that is called the reaction of the food with the water. Basically, mostly happen in all the components, but basically on the carbohydrates. This water that is having in the stomach, we have water too in the stomach, they're going to basically produce the digestion of carbohydrates. Just put a piece of bread in the sink of your kitchen, and what happened with the bread? The bread becomes like a foam, like a sponge, right? So that you're looking is hydrolysis. Bile is important. What is the composition of the bile? The bile will be bilirubin, bile acids, cholesterol, water, and electrolytes. And basically, what we need to know is about the bile acid. Bile acid produce the emulsification. Bile acid is not the same to say bile. Bile is a group of components. Right? Bile is equal to say bile acid, cholesterol, bilirubin, plus water and electrolytes. Is that clear or not?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Very good. Okay, so just remember the gastroesophageal sphincter. The gastroesophageal sphincter is a sphincter that is going to control the passage of the bolus to the stomach and from bolus to chyme. So that means that the chyme cannot go back. This gastroesophageal sphincter can produce what we call GERD. You heard about GERD?
Yeah.
GERD is the gastroesophageal reflux disease. So that is called that. Do you hear about the heartburn? Heartburn?
Yes.
This heartburn is colloquially. It's a very kind of colloquial word. So what we talk is about pyrosis. Pyrosis is the heartburn in medicine. So you can talk properly. So you can talk according who is in front of you. Correct? Okay? I got my teeth gone. Okay. All right, so what happened with this? When you have too much gastric acid, listen to this, please. When you have too much gastric acid, the gastroesophageal sphincter are going to relax. It's going to relax. allowing the gastric acid going into the esophagus. And the esophagus lining is not the stomach. So they don't have that mucus that protect the lining of the esophagus. So if you have gastric acid going to the esophagus, they can lead into ulcers in the esophagus. Okay? The saliva that is produced in the mouth, they are going to be, forget about the Ebner glands, I'm not going to ask that, but there is some amount of lipase that is basically secreted by some glands on the tongue. I'm not going to ask that. So just remember, the saliva, we have 3 salivary glands: parotid, submaxillary, and submandibular, right? Sublingual, sorry, sublingual. Submandibular, parotid, and sublingual. So all of them are going to produce the 3 pairs, right? Produce saliva and saliva and water. So amylase, the other name of the amylase is the thiolin. Sometimes they like to ask you that. Thiolin. Thiolin or amylase is the other name. Amylase is thiolin. Thiolin is amylase. Okay, it's the same. It's just changed the name. Somebody changed the name. I don't know why. Saliva, in addition, they're going to lubricate and facilitate the swallowing. You cannot pass anything if your mouth is totally dry, correct? All right, so we have the bolus here, the bolus passing from the esophagus to the stomach. 10 to 13 seconds is taking the bolus to go from the esophagus to the stomach. In the stomach is going to stay there for at least half an hour, and after half an hour, they start to initiate the evacuation of the chyme. Half an hour is initiate the evacuation of the chyme. And so that's why here, when the evacuation of the chyme is starting half an hour, here this is the main function of the stomach is digestion, but the main function of the duodenum, small intestine, is the absorption, plus some chemical digestion, right? So this is the main area where we have most chemical digestion. But what happened? The absorption is going to be initiated by the duodenum. So if you have medication, a Tylenol, you have pain, and you take a Tylenol, go to the stomach. The stomach is going to start to evacuate the Tylenol into the duodenum in half an hour. So that's why the effect of the Tylenol you should expect to happen, initiate the effect in half an hour. Make sense or no? Hello?
Yes.
Makes sense.
Okay, so you need to remember that is important. Why? Because in your nursing process. So when you're going to give some medication to the patient, how soon you're going to evaluate or monitor the patient or the effect of the medication on the patient? If there is PO, you start to see PO in 30 minutes start to make effect. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell me, yes, whatever, but don't let me alone here, because I look like I'm totally talking to my computer a lot. Okay, so let's keep moving. All right, so we already talked about that. All right, the bioavailability. The bioavailability is the competition between the nutrients for absorption. So that's why we have the 20% proteins, 30% fat, 50% carbs. So if you eat food in this proportion, basically they are going to be absorbed evenly, all the fat, proteins, and carbohydrates. But if you have excess of carbohydrates, you're going to diminish the absorption of fat and proteins. So basically that means you're not eating healthy. Okay, so that's why we need to keep those proportions of a balanced diet, the 20, 30, and 50%. So that is the bioavailability. How much of the nutrients will be absorbed? How much of the nutrients will be absorbed? 100% bioavailability is when all the nutrients are going to be absorbed. 50% when the half of the nutrients are going to be absorbed only. Okay, bioavailability. The small intestine, we have the villi and the microvilli. The folds of the intestine are going to be, this is the folds of the intestine. This fold, we have actually on the top, this is the villi, villi, but on the top of the villi, we have the microvilli. If you put all the surface area in like a carpet, you're going to have similar as the lungs, a tennis court area. So imagine that area of tennis court is the area that we use for absorption. So that's why the body is taking about 1 to 2 days to be able to absorb everything completely. And in 2 days, you go until you make the stool, right? Or the feces, okay? So basically, you need 2 days. And that's why we have the villi and microvilli in order to increase the area of absorption. So basically, there are going to be, let me see here. No. Okay, so we need to keep going. Okay, so we already talked about the proteins. They have enzymes from the mouth to the intestine. They're going to break down the digestion of proteins starts in the mouth with the chemical and the mechanical digestion. So we talk about the chyme, etc. We have the enzymes that we have in the stomach. We have pepsinogen, that is PP protein, is an enzyme. So you just proteolytic enzymes or enzymes who break down the proteins. That is called basically the pepsin when it's together with the gastric acid, pepsin. So just remember, I don't want you to go into those names. I'm not going to ask that. What I'm going to be focusing is that the proteins are going to be digested from the very beginning, from the mouth down to the intestines. You already know what is the importance of the peristalsis. You already know the pancreatic juice, pH 12, the amylase, the protease, and the lipase. The protease will be the trypsin and the chymotrypsin. Okay, so that is a protease. Those are the protease is a big umbrella. I don't want you to remember the trypsin, chymotrypsin. I want just you to get familiar with that. Just call the protease. And you know protease is the big umbrella for other enzymes who digest proteins. Okay, so the same thing happened with the intestine. In the intestine, they can digest fat, carbohydrates, and proteins. Okay, so disaccharides. So that is the name I was looking. Disaccharidases. So that is the maltase, that is the lactase, that is the sucrase. Okay. Already talked about that, the mucus, the bile, and hormones. There's some hormones that you need to remember, especially the CCK. CCK, this one. This is the cholecystokinin. Who secrete this hormone? The duodenum. The duodenum is going to secrete this hormone, the CCK. Secrete CCK, the duodenum. Then they go to the bloodstream, and the target organ of this cholecystokinin will be the gallbladder and will be the pancreatic duct. So at the moment you eat, the cholecystokinin is going to be produced because the chyme is passing and make friction against the walls of the duodenum. So that is the stimulus of the duodenum to produce the CCK. The CCK, they go to the bloodstream, target organ, gallbladder, are going to contract. If they have a lot of food, contract even more, and the pancreatic juice are going to be eliminated more, or secreted more pancreatic juice into the duodenum. So cholecystokinin is basically the communication, the text message for the stomach, for the pancreas, and for the gallbladder. The cholecystokinin produced by the duodenum said, okay, it's time to work. Everybody come together. and the cholecystokinin, and simultaneously it's going to increase the secretion of pancreatic juice, secrete the bile, and actually secrete pancreatic juice and the secretion of bile. That is the cholecystokinin. There's other actions that I'm not going to mention, like cholecystokinin decrease the production of gastric acid, and it's obvious because the food is not anymore in the stomach. You don't need more gastric acid because there is no food. The body knows that. And that is one of the other functions of cholecystokinin. For the exam, I would like you to remember just the cholecystokinin, target organ, gallbladders, and the pancreas, the pancreatic juice. Okay, so we talk about that. Okay. Okay, the large intestine. The large intestine, you already know the components of the anatomy. We need to talk about the function of the large intestine. And you already know, it's the flora, number one, flora, large intestine. And the number two is the absorption of water. Absorption of water. No amino acids. They can absorb amino acids, but basically it's not happening here. Nutrients, it's not happening here. Why? Because basically all the nutrients, minerals, and amino acids are already absorbed by the small intestine. So the remnants are going to be water. And that is what is going to do basically the large intestine, to absorb water. You okay with that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So
Yes.
one thing I want to remind you is this, that imagine the intestine, the small intestine, okay, and they are going to absorb the nutrients. Where they go? They go to the superior mesenteric vein and the superior inferior mesenteric vein, and they are going to go to the venous system, proteins and carbohydrates only. So they are going to be collected by the veins from the intestines and directed towards the liver. So the mesenteric veins coming together with the splenic vein that is coming from the spleen and form the portal vein. So this is venous blood that is going to be transport basically proteins and carbohydrates. The fats, how they are going to be transported. The intestines, the villi, they contain some what we call lacteal ducts. Lacteal. I don't know if I say it here. Okay, this is the lacteal. There you are. Can you see it here? I'm going to make it bigger very fast. If you see here, red, can you see in red here? That is the artery. Can you see blue? The vein. But in between, what we have? Can you see this like a big tube here? All this, can you see that? So
Yeah.
that is the lacteal vessel. That is the lymphatic. And this is the lumen. So the lumen, what happened? We have the amino acids, we have the fat, we have the carbohydrate, and the carbohydrates are going to absorb by the cell, and they go to the venous system here. The amino acids too, into the venous system. But the fat is going to go to the lacteal vessel. That is going to be collected by the lymphatic fluid. So they go up and drain on the left thoracic, in the thoracic duct or the left lymphatic duct that is draining on the left subclavian. So all fats are going to be some proteins too, some proteins. The majority of proteins through the venous system, but some proteins, and the majority of fat are going to be for the lacteal vessel or lymphatic vessel. You okay with that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So we have the metabolism. Metabolism, you know what is metabolism? Is the formation, how the body forms energy, or you can define as the summation of anabolism and catabolism. So just remember, we have the glycogenesis. Glycogenesis is basically forming you put molecules of glucose. Glycogen is not fructose, is not galactose. It's basically glucose. The glycogen is glucose. Where is located the glycogen? In the muscles and in the liver. And they are going to accumulate maximum 2 pounds. So when you, for example, eat carbohydrates, that is the main source of energy. So you will use the energy very fast. You still keep eating sugar, and that sugar will be deposited as glycogen in the muscles and the liver. But they have a limit, only 2 pounds, only 2 pounds. When you already have plenish of glycogen, 2 pounds, you're still eating carbohydrates. Those carbohydrates are going to, this surplus of carbohydrates are going to go to form fat. You okay with that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Lipogenesis is, we are going to see that is building up based on triglycerides. What are the normal levels of triglycerides? 150, less than 150. What is the normal level of cholesterol? Less than 200. Lipogenesis is they're going to put or send that these triglycerides deposit into the fat cells. The fat cells, they have a nucleus, but they have a big back wall that is fat. That is located there, the triglycerides. The gluconeogenesis, we talk about the proteins, how they are actually forming glucose from proteins. Galactosemia. Galactosemia are going to be, listen to the name, please. We are going to talk galactosemia, phenylketonuria, and lactose intolerance. We already talked about lactose intolerance in the past. Galactosemia. Galactosemia is an autosomal recessive. You know what is autosomal. You know what is recessive, bioscience. Most common carbohydrate metabolism disorder. So what is this? Galactosemia. Listen to the name. Galactose, emia, means what? Means what? Blood. So you have high levels of galactose in blood. So what does it mean? That you cannot process the galactose. There you are. It's a condition in which the body is unable to process galactose, the sugar present in milk. Accumulation of excessive galactose in the body can cause many problems, including liver damage, brain damage, and cataracts. Galactosemia. So, galactosemia. The phenylketonuria. Phenylketonuria is the phenylalanine. Phenylalanine is an autosomal recessive, most common inborn error of amino acids metabolism. So, what does it mean, phenylketonuria? Phenylalanine is the amino acid. Keto produce ketone bodies, produce acidosis, and urea means that because you cannot use the phenylalanine, The phenylalanine is one of the essential amino acids. Remember, I remember to tell you that you need to remember tryptophan and phenylalanine. Phenylalanine is one of the essential amino acids. So what they are going to do is to produce basically a cognitive dysfunction. So they're going to have mental retardation, even seizures, phenylketonuria. This galactosemia is going to be 1 every 60,000 people. Galactosemia, phenylketonuria is going to happen about 1 every 25,000. Every 25. If you see 12 patients a day, you probably will see 3,000 patients in a year. So, and this is about 25,000. So you will see 1 every 10 years. So that is how often, but basically they can be asking in the exam, in the NCLEX, and these pathologies are common to see in NCLEX, in MedSearch. MedSearch. So what you're going to do is phenylketonuria. Oh, by the way, what you're going to do if you have galactosemia? Decrease all the products, avoid foods that contain galactose and lactose. Make sense or no? Why lactose? Because lactose decomposes into galactose. That is something that you cannot use in this disease. And the glucose. You can use glucose, but no galactose. Okay? So that is a treatment for that. Phenylketonuria, if you have excess of phenylalanine because you cannot use it, accumulate in the blood, you need to decrease your levels of phenylalanine. You can eat some meat, but basically there's allowed to certain amount, more than this small amount of meat that contains phenylalanine. You cannot eat more because they can produce problems with diarrhea, especially. Okay, phenylketonuria. So what you're going to do, avoid high content protein, high quality proteins. High quality protein, because they have, by sure, they have high content of phenylalanine. You can handle a little bit of phenylalanine, but you cannot handle if you eat a lot, in other words. So you can eat basically plants, cereal, starch, fruits, vegetables. Lactose intolerance is because this ends lactose intolerance. So that means the deficiency or no presence of the lactase. So can produce diarrhea. So what you need to do is to decrease the ingestion of dairy products. All right, so let's talk about energy balance. And for this, I'm going to be very simple. You're going to see that it's very easy, and we are going to just make a small summary here. But look at this. Basic energy needs. So voluntary work and exercises and involuntary work. All right, so what is that? So for every activity that you have in your body, for every activity, you consume energy. You consume ATPs. You okay with that? There is activities that are divided in involuntary. When you are sleeping, for example, it's involuntary. Your heart is still working, your respiration is still working, the blood flow is going to continue, etc., etc. The cells are going to receive nutrients, etc. All these, they need energy. So this is when you are sleeping. You are not aware of that. That is involuntary. So we have energy that is used when you are doing some physical activity, and involuntary when you are resting or sleeping. So the nutrients are going to be transformed in different type of energies. These energies will be into chemical energy during the metabolic reactions. These nutrients, energy, ATPs, are going to be used for electrical impulses. They are going to use for mechanical energy, like chewing, right? Peristalsis, and thermal. So they are going to basically increase the temperature of your body. All chemical reactions are going to release some type of energy. In this case, thermal, that is in the form of heat. Okay? Okay, so only 3 nutrients can store energy because of the bonds. The bonds are not bonds, but bonds, bonds, are going in the links, are going to contain the energy. When we break that energy will not disappear, will be transformed, and is going to be used to produce ATPs. All right, so here we have calorie. We have a calorie. Look, calorie is the same to say a kilocalorie. Is the same to say 1,000 calories. Don't get confused on this. This is lowercase. You see calories, you write down with capital letter. Capital. If you see 1 calorie lowercase, that is not this one. Calorie with capital letter means 1,000 calories. Or is the same to say 1 kilocalorie. Is that clear? But you get confused in the gym because some people say calories, kilocalories, calories, kilocalories. The right way to say is kilocalories. But if they say calories, they are talking about kilocalories. But you cannot make, when you're talking, you cannot differentiate calories from uppercase from lowercase. But when you're talking about 1 calorie, capital letter, means equal 1,000 kilocalories. We okay with that?
Yes.
For your calculations, you need to remember this, please. Carbohydrates produce for 1 gram of carbohydrate are going to produce 4 kilocalories. Fat, for 1 gram of fat, you produce 9 kilocalories. So see, this stores more energy, the fat. For 1 gram of protein, you store, similar to carbohydrates, 4 kilocalories. And alcohol, 1 gram of alcohol, 7 kilocalories. Okay? You okay with that?
Yes.
All right, caloric density, nutrients, and this. So caloric density. Caloric density means, for example, fat food, fatty food, fatty food. So they have a lot of fat, right? And fat they have in very high caloric value, very high caloric value. So that means that is going to be 9 kilocalories per gram. Nutrient density depends, for example, how much concentration of proteins you have in that food. So high quality proteins means that in a small amount of food you have high concentration of proteins. All right. So for this, I want you to just remember this. We have energy intake and energy output. So you want to take the energy that you're eating in the food, and that amount of energy you want to use it for as energy output. So that means you need to have a balance between the intake and the outtake. So if you're going to do more exercises, you need to eat more. If you are going to do less exercises, you need to eat less, because your requirements of energy in and out are going to be, they need to be equal. So whatever you eat is whatever you're going to use as energy. You okay with that?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay. And the last concept here is the resting energy expenditure, the REE. Resting energy expenditure, that is the same to say the basal metabolic, the basal energy expenditure is similar to the, all right, so resting energy expenditure is the same to say the basal metabolic rate. It's a slightly different, but basically it's the same. So basal is the base, the baseline. So is the basal when you are sleeping, in other words. When you are not doing anything, you are sleeping, the energy that you are going to use when you are sleeping, that is called the resting energy expenditure. That is similar, or you can call the same, basal metabolic rate. It's just a slightly difference between them, but you can call either way. Resting energy expenditure and the basal metabolic rate. Basal metabolic rate is easier to handle. So I would like you to call this basal metabolic rate. When you're sleeping, how much energy, how much ATPs you use when you're sleeping. Physical activity is another thing that is going to act. So when you are sleeping is the involuntary activity. But then that is certain amount of kilocalories that you need when you are sleeping in order to survive. But then you wake up, you do exercises, that is an extra energy that you require. So you need to make the summation of both of them. The summation of both of them in order to know how many kilocalories you will need the whole day. And we have the thermic effect of food, So what is happening here? The thermic effect of food is when you eat, you feel warm. You start to warm up, yes or no? Right? So that means that the metabolic reactions are going to be activated. And these metabolic reactions, they need energy. They need energy. So you need to add to the basal metabolic rate, ATPs or kilocalories. You need to make a summation of the physical activity that you're going to need more energy for that, right? So you make a summation of physical activity plus the basal metabolic rate plus the thermic effect of the food. Because when you eat, the chemical reactions need to have energy to digest, to produce all the chemicals that are happening in the GI tract and all the body. So that's why you need an extra energy. How we are going to calculate that? We are going to calculate with this. And that is what we are going to stop today. This is the basal metabolic rate. That is what I want you to calculate at home. Basal metabolic rate means how much energy you need to be alive. All right? So that means how much the rest we are going to do in the next lecture. The next lecture is going to complete the whole thing. But at this moment, this lecture wants you to just calculate how much kilocalories you require in order to be alive. So for example, we have a male In male, is 1 kilocalorie per kilogram times 24 hours. In female, it's not 1, it's 0.9 kilocalories per kilogram in the next 24 hours. All right, so let's make an example. So give me a weight. Somebody can give me a number, please. Female. Let's girls first.
80 pounds.
How many?
80 pounds.
80 pounds?
80
pounds is a little bit high. Okay. 80 pounds. That's okay. By 0.9 kilocalories.
Get ready for work, but thank you for today.
Yeah, I finished already. Thank you, thank you. Thank you so much. And you multiply here. So how much is that? It's 24. That is going to be 14.4. For 12, that is 28.8 per 6. This is 48, 52, 5, 12, 17.
Dr. G,
So, oh, yes.
don't you have to turn it into kilograms because it's on pounds?
Oh, yeah. See? When I'm in a hurry, I make a mistake. Oh, you said 80 pounds. I was thinking 80 kilos. Okay. 80 pounds, how much is 80 pounds?
Divided by 2.
It's going to be 36 kilos?
Let me see.
36.36.
Okay, 36 kilos. So 80 pounds represent 36 kilos. Okay? Now you multiply, is a female, right? It's female or boy? Girl or boy?
Doesn't matter.
Okay, let's make a girl. 36 times 0.9. And that is going to be 4, 27, 34, right? 34?
32.4.
32.4 times 24. How much is that?
777.6.
Okay, so about 750 kilocalories per day. Basically, 36 kilograms is a kid, right? It's a kid. It's not an adult, right? So let's do an adult. For example, okay, I will do it myself. I'm very proud. You know, I lost 10 pounds. I was 180 now. No, 185 now. I'm 175. I'm 175 pounds. And these 175 pounds turning into kilos. That means 79 kilos, correct? Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, 79 kilos per 1 times 1, because it's 1 here, male. 79 times 24. How much is that?
1,909.
1,509.
No, 1,909.
909. Okay, let's make it 1,909. That is what I need to live, the amount of energy that I require, the kilocalories that I need in a day. Okay with that? And that's it. Then, if you want to know how many grams of proteins and carbohydrates and lipids you want, you multiply this by 20% to give you how many kilocalories of proteins you need. You multiply by 30%, and this is giving you the kilocalories that you need for fat. You divide it by 2, 50%, right? It's going to give you the kilocalories that you need for carbohydrates. And then you can change the carbohydrates into grams, knowing the equivalence. If you have 1 gram of carbohydrate is giving me 4 kilocalories, how many of these calories are going to represent in grams? You want me to elaborate that or no? You want me to put it in a very more clean board? That's fine? Everybody got it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seriously, everybody got it? So I'm asking many times, please. My tongue is falling down, asking the same thing all the time. So please tell me, we understood.
I understand.
Yes.
Okay.